Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pete Bercich Minnesota Viking postgame show. I'm Tom Moore from BikeFans.com, and with me from U.S. Bank Stadium is Vikings radio color analyst Pete Bercich. And Pete, what a heartbreaker today, losing to the Lions 14-7. You have a defense that gives up with the Vikings less than 275 total yards to a Lion team with a pretty potent passing attack. They scored just 14 points. What did you see?
Well, you have three phases of the game now. You've got a defense, you've got offense, and you've got special teams. And, the defense played requisite of a win. They leave a little bit on the table. Yeah, I think they had three chances or three opportunities at interceptions that they let go by. But, the main thing, again, is Dalvin Cook going down and coming out. And this game is not about one person. I mean, Bradford goes out, Case Keenum fills in, and he's played well. You can't let something like that, something that you can't control, affect you. Now, it affected the crowd immensely as the bank got quiet later in that game or after Dalvin Cook was injured. But you can only control what you can control, and what's out of your control, you can't let it affect you. And I don't think defensively they did that, but offensively it was just a comedy of errors. I mean, lack of execution, mistake after mistake, and you lost to a Lions team that wasn't as good as we are, and I was not impressed with this Lions club, and unfortunately it doesn't matter. So you lose to the Lions, and now you've got to beat them at their place. And you're going to have to beat Green Bay once or twice. So the season just got a hell of a lot tougher.
Yeah, no doubt. And, of course, you mentioned Dalvin Cook, and you and I spoke before this broadcast that I know you don't have necessarily an update on him. We're hoping for the best. But, when you look at it on those TV monitors, what you saw at stadium, that sure looks like an ACL-type injury. And I'm curious from your perspective, what are your reactions to that? And as a player, when you have that, you talk about it's deflating. How do you get over it quickly and just go to the next play?
Well, it's because it's what you have to do. I mean, it's not as if you want to or you're even conditioned to. I mean, it's a way that you have to operate. When you play defense, when you get called, and whether it's a turnover on your own 1 yard line or whatever it is, you got to go out there and play. You can't sit there and say, well, we played well enough, and offense made too many mistakes, and blah blah. We're not the ones that are going to get yelled at in the meeting. I mean, that's not how you play this game. You can't play the game this way. And like I said, no one man makes up a team, and it's unfortunate to see the wind come out of the sails of the offense with Dalvin Cook, because he was starting to get some positive yardage. And don't think for a minute Detroit wasn't banged up. They had two backup linebackers that they lost, and they had lost three. They were down three linebackers. On base downs, they had to put a safety. They were playing nickel on base downs because they didn't have enough linebackers to finish this game. And we were unable to take advantage of that. It was like last year. Teams would do that to us last year, and we couldn't run the football. And it was the same toward the second half of this game. And that doesn't bode well for this offense. You have to be able to run the football, whether it's Dalvin Cook, whether it's Latavius Murray. I don't care who's back there. You have to execute. You have to at least get 3-4 yards of carry to make defenses respect the run. And that just did not happen today.
And Pete, you grew up in Chicagoland, and of course, anybody who grew up in Chicago has seen Brian Saw in the movie. And you remember seeing the highlights of Gale Sayers when he's on the one run, and he injures himself, grabs that knee, and drops the football. That had to bring back memories when you saw Dalvin Cook do almost exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it did, and it looked to me like he got hit real hard because he just crumpled, and the ball popped loose. But then when you get a chance to see the replay, he cut with his left leg, and then went back to his right, and then tried to put his left leg down and couldn't. And that's when the ball really started to come loose. And he was hit right as that ball was already coming loose. So that was horrible to see. I mean, that's something you never want to see. It reminded me of the old AstroTurf injuries that we would see. non-contact style of injuries when guys are running, they're trying to plant or redirect, and they get a foot caught in their foot or their tennis shoe caught in the turf, causing the ACL to go, and it was reminiscent of that. And I look at this sport turf and everywhere that's played on, and sometimes you got to kind of wonder if the surface is that much safer. I know it's better than AstroTurf. Anything was better than AstroTurf, but how much safer it is, I don't know. I don't think if this is a grass surface that Dalvin Cook tears his ACL on that cut.
Well, unfortunately, the NFL is next man up league, and with Cook out for at least a week, if not the entire season here, based on what we hear about it. We got a little glimpse of Latavius Murray today. Fans are not as familiar with him, even though he played in Oakland. The Twin Cities fans don't know him as well. Based on what you've seen, what you know about Latavius Murray, what can they expect of him as now the feature back?
Well, he's a big man, and he's fast. At least he has been. And what we've seen of him this year, which is very little. You remember the first carry that he got, he fumbled, and he thankfully landed on his own fumble. But not much in the way of burst, not much in the way of juice, not much in the way of redirect. Hopefully, if he's getting all the snaps at running back, if that's the case, and Dalvin Cook is out, which I would at least, best case scenario, he's out for a little while. He's going to look better. He's going to get some more chances, more snaps during the week. Will they, alter the running game schematically for his style, as he's more of a, up and down the field kind of a guy? I don't know. They won't be able to throw to him like they do to Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook was a guy you could put out in the slot and do some of those things. I don't think that Latavius Murray is that kind of a receiver out of the backfield, So we'll see. I mean, Jerick McKinnon, you look at today, he had some opportunities. You go wildcat, try to get cute a little bit, and then you fumble the exchange. And it's stuff like that. When you're playing a team like Detroit and you knew it was going to be a close game, you cannot afford to make those mistakes. Adam Thielen with a fumble, and Glover Quinn, kind of punches that ball loose. I mean, 2 of the 3 fumbles that we gave up had nothing to do with what Detroit did. And that's what you come away from this game, and you're upset. And I'm upset because this was an opportunity to put a division opponent down 2-2. You almost get a 2-game lead then over them because you beat them head-to-head. So even if they tie you record-wise, you're still ahead of them. And it's 4 weeks into the season. So you lost to this team twice last year. Keep the home field advantage. There were so many things on the table this early in the season for the Vikings, and they had it. I mean, they had the game. You miss a field goal. You fumble the ball 3 times. There was some horrific officiating going on, and especially in that one series. I mean, there was just a couple of really big missed calls. Rarely do we complain about officiating because that's just kind of the way it is. But I think today was just awful, and like I said, you get a field goal opportunity, points are at a premium, and then you hit the upright. So I don't know. You scratch your head, you come away, and just disappointed. Very, very disappointed. It's bad enough to lose a running back, but to lose a game that way, it's just terrible.
I agree. And, you mentioned Jerick McKinnon, and I'm curious about this. I mean, we've seen this from Shermer a few times using this Wildcat. The Wildcat doesn't seem to have that much success. It's gimmicky, and it changes the flow of the game when the team seems to be doing well. Why do we continue to use the Wildcat formation?
Well, if there's something there and it can get you some yardage, it's something that if you can execute it, then yeah, it's going to work well, and you can do some things with it. The problem is when you don't execute it, and as a coach, you have to obviously practice those things over and over during the week. Make sure that getting cute, getting tricky isn't going to cost you like it did. You look at Jerick McKinnon too. Is he had an opportunity toward the end of the game to catch a first down pass out in the flat and completely, drop that ball that should have been caught. So there's a lot of things that we left on the table, and unfortunately, Jerick McKinnon was behind a couple of the really, really big ones.
Yeah, and one of the things you see, last question on the offense for you is, Case Keenum didn't enjoy the kind of protection he had from his offensive line a week ago against the Bucs. Was there something you saw there at the stadium that the Lions were doing on defense that was making this offensive line unit less effective in their pass blocking?
Well, the offensive line protected. There were periods of time when they did a good job. Detroit, into that third and going into the fourth quarter, started to blitz quite a bit. They felt like they were athletic enough in the back end. I think that maybe is the difference with Detroit now with Darius Slay and some of those corners covering guys man-to-man. They got a couple penalties that way, and then they got away from it. They kind of went back to the zone. So I think the success for Detroit in the pass rush came with the blitzing. And there were a couple big plays and some opportunities the Vikings got from it. So, Keenum, you knew Keenum wasn't just gonna keep on like he did last week. But at the same time, you got to put up more than 7 points. You've had plenty of opportunities toward the end, but ultimately, you can't put it on him either, as we kept shooting ourselves in the foot and giving Detroit extra possessions. So, what can you say when you can't really pin it all on the quarterback in Case Keenum?
No doubt, and I got to think, you being a former player and coach, that will not be a fun film session this week, will it?
Oh no, of course not. I mean, and here's the thing: it's not as if it won't be fun because of the mistakes that were made. The hard part is going to be to watch that game and for those guys to see what they left on the table, the opportunity that they had, and the opportunities that they had let pass them by because of mistakes. And you don't get these opportunities very often. And you hate to just let a game get away from you because of those mistakes. And they did. And it wasn't just one. It wasn't just two. There were many, many out there. Protection problems that, with the tight ends and leaving guys free, sliding the line one way and leaving a defensive end from Detroit just untouched off the ball. I mean, I believe his name was Zetter, the defensive end. He had a couple sacks, but on his sacks, he wasn't even touched. I mean, you turn a guy loose at this level, he's going to get to the quarterback. I mean, that's those are drive killers. Those are point killers. I mean, they just killed us today.
I did. And one of the things I wanted to follow up with you on before you talked about the missed field goal by Kai Forbath, and then Coach Zimmer, had a decision to make to take a field goal with less than 3 minutes to go. It would have brought the score to 14-10. He forego that. He decided that he was going to go for it on 4th and goal from the 15-yard line. And I'm curious, did he do that because he didn't have the faith in Forbath making that field goal?
No, I don't think so. I think what he saw and what he felt was if you kick a field goal there, that sets you up for an opportunity to get a go-ahead score, but makes it much less it would be much less likely to get that extra possession as time was running out. So I don't disagree with that. With the call. The problem is you have a sack that puts you at you were in 4-down territory. You knew that. You knew on 3rd down and 2nd down and 1st down that you were in 4-down territory, and then you make a mistake that costs you that much yardage on 3rd down. The one thing offenses can't let happen when you get into the red zone are lost yardage plays. You've got to find a way to survive and live another down. A quarterback, you get into trouble, throw it out of the back of the end zone. Do things like that to preserve field position. And that way it would not have been 4th and 18, I believe it was. It would be 4th and a lot more manageable. So, again, just the wrong mistake at the wrong time, and next thing you know, you lose 14-7.
Yeah, one last question for you, Pete, as we wrap up. As good as that defense played today for the Vikings, they had a couple of those key penalties and would-be interceptions that you mentioned early in our conversation. And as a fan, why does it always seem that after such these penalties or these near misses, opposing offenses tend to go on big plays, on the whether they score a touchdown or a field goal or make a first down? Is there a letdown or a loss of concentration on defenses after mistakes like that?
Well, sometimes, yeah. I mean, yeah, you see that quite a bit when a guy, drops an easy interception and the offenses go on to score. But I go back to the third down in about 20 when we give up a 38-yard pass on just a blown coverage. That's as bad of a mistake as you can make, and it gave Detroit a first down on a key drive and put points on the board. So, we're not mistake free. You made a lot of things happen on defense. You still gave up a couple too many plays, and when your offense isn't firing all cylinders, that margin for error continues to shrink, and it appears that those couple mistakes were just a couple too many.
I'll tell you, there's obviously a lot of intriguing news, especially in the injury front coming in the next week. And you and I will both be at Soldier Field next week on Monday night, where that stadium has been a house of horrors as the Vikings have not won there in a decade. What are your early thoughts on a Bear team that on paper certainly does not look that good coming up on Monday night?
No, and they look horrific. Then they come back and beat the Steelers, and then they come back and look horrible again against Green Bay and lose that game on Thursday. But that's something to look at, is that the Bears they got 3 extra days to get ready for this Monday night game at home. So that'll be an advantage to them. Yeah, they didn't go well against Green Bay. However, like most teams, they play better at home. Natural grass surface. I mean, it'll be different for the Vikings. We've struggled there for whatever reason over the last 10 years. Like you said, we've struggled mightily, and you can't afford. There's no room for error now. You can't be 0-2 in the division and end up being 2-3 after Monday night. So, yeah, I mean, an opportunity lost at the beginning of a very difficult part of the schedule. Yeah. Any way you look at it, it doesn't look any better. It doesn't feel any better.
Well, at least I think Mike Zimmer will have their attention this week. And for the fans, don't forget to give Pete your thoughts on his post-game analysis on Twitter, and he'll be glad to interact with you. You can find Pete on Twitter, at Pete Bercich, or at VikeFans.com. So until next week from Soldier Field, for Pete Bercich, I'm Tom Moore. So long, everyone.